What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Simply Soccer podcast. I'm just wrapping up watching the games on the weekend, just watching as Man City beat Manchester United 2-1. So that looks like the Premier League, bar maybe a catastrophic meltdown by City, all wrapped up. I don't really see anyone catching them now. Now it's basically a fight for the remaining three spots. Obviously, my Liverpool tied Everton in a controversial fashion. But I'm not going to get into that. Anyway, welcome to the podcast. A few announcements real quick. First announcement, I'm looking at my recorder and it's almost out of batteries. So if there's like a weird cutoff at some point in this podcast, that's why, because I had to change it. Also, a few other things. It's been, I think, a couple weekends since I've released one of these. So a few things. I've released Ultimate Soccer Skills. For those of you who are following that, I know some of you are in there already. And just in case any of you are still interested, it's still on a discounted price right now. You can get it by going into the link down below. I will be continually adding to this course. It's really going to be one of my main courses, meaning I'm going to continually add more and more as time goes along. But the price probably will go up as I do that. So if you are interested in getting in there, there's already a ton of content in there to help you improve and become better. You can take a look at the link down below where you can find more information on it, on what's inside, what it's like and all that. And essentially, you'll also get more priority access to me because anyone in a course also gets access to a private Facebook group and also to a private email where they can ask me any question, and I basically, answer as soon as possible to help you with any area of your game. So that's something you're interested in. You're interested in getting incredibly comfortable with the ball at your feet, being one of the most skillful players on your team, and just improving, drastically in a short amount of time in one of the most important areas in all of football, then take a look at Ultimate Soccer Skills. Again, that will be linked down below. And for everyone that's in the course already, thank you for purchasing it. And I can't wait to hear how you're doing as you go through it and the results that you're receiving from going through it. Another thing I can mention real quick, I did release a shirt. Some of you may have heard that. I'll link that down below just in case any of you are interested in it. It's at a discount price as well right now. I'm going to start doing maybe like one a month. We definitely will do a special limited edition one once we hit 100,000 subscribers. But you can take a look at that as well. It's just a little motivational shirt that I like, that basically kind of simplifies the process of improvement or growth. Anyway, so those are the two announcements. Let's get right into this podcast. So I want to go over a couple topics, and one of these topics I've made a video on, but I want to dive into it a little more, and I've spoken about it before, but it really warrants repeating. It deserves being repeated because it's one of those ideas you really need to hear over and over again and drill into your head over and over again so that you actually start to apply it. And even like I've heard it a million times and I still sometimes forget to do it. And whenever I forget to do it, I notice my life gets worse and I get more stressed. And when I remember to do it, and I remember this idea, things become easier. Not in the sense of like I don't have to work hard, I don't have to be consistent or anything like that, but in the sense things become more clear, and the more clarity you have, the easier things become. If you're fumbling around in the dark, if you're unsure of what you're supposed to be doing, if you're looking just at the big picture and not how to break down the big picture, it becomes daunting. So we'll be going over that. And I also want to go over training in winter. I'm probably going to make a video on this, just kind of giving you guys some ideas for winter training and why, using excuses to not training in the winter there really aren't any excuses. Regardless of where you are in the world, there's always something you can do. So let's start with that. Let's start with training in the winter because a few of you have been asking me about this. And really, the great thing about football that I love about it, that I really puts it above most sports, is you need next to nothing to play. You need next to nothing to train. You don't need much to do most things that you need to do in football, whether it's just play in general, whether it's work with a ball, whether it's even working on other things like cardio or working out. You don't need a gym membership to develop the strength you need, for example, to become a stronger player. Now, of course, that helps, but there are body weight exercises you can do. If you have just a few free weights, there's a ton of things you can do. A lot of the things you'll want to work on are mobility and movement exercises that'll help you in many different areas. You don't need to be a 250-pound muscular dude to play football. That doesn't suit the game. So, you can do that. You don't need a ton of space to train with a ball. In the winter, it just snowed here, so I've been looking for routines I can do and giving myself things to do inside my basement in a small space. Or when there's not snow, I'll just go to a parking lot. Like I did that the other night. I went to a parking lot and did some of the drills I have in Ultimate Soccer Skills. You don't need much. Now, obviously, the crappy thing about winter is it's cold. And it's frozen. Now, I don't recommend you go out and play in the snow. One, it's not efficient. You're not going to, get much out of that, and it can be dangerous. I'm not saying go to the parking lot when it's icy and there's a risk you're going to slip and hurt yourself. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, there's always a way you can train. Again, like for certain sports, it's harder. If you're a basketball player and you don't have access to a court, that makes it a little harder to train. If you're a baseball player, you need certain things to train. I'm sure you can do certain things in a little amount of space, but usually not. If you're an American football player, rugby player, usually you need specific things. But with football, if you have a ball and you have a little bit of space, doesn't matter how much, you can do something and get a lot out of it. And actually, Ultimate Soccer Skills, a lot of the drills that are in there can be done in almost anywhere, in any amount of space, bar some maybe of the fitness drills. Most of them I could do in my basement because, you don't need that much space to work on these kind of things. So what I want to kind of just get through to you is if for example, you want to work on your shooting, but it's too cold or it's too icy or, the weather's not allowing you to, there's always something else you can work on. One of the great things also about the winter, if you're, for example, not happy with your fitness or your strength or something like this, the winter is a great time to work on those areas. Maybe, winter for a lot of players will be off season. In college, where it is in the off season right now. High school would be in the off season right now, actually for a while now. Most teams, outside maybe, the professional leagues are in off season. They don't play in the winter unless you do indoor professionally or something. Or even in college, we would do indoor soccer, but it was not mandatory. It wasn't like a actual team thing. It was just like, oh, you guys want to sign up for an indoor league and play, just to keep playing. So in the winter, it's really a lot of players just take off. But for you, this is a great time to kind of identify some of your weaknesses and work on it. So like I said, if fitness is a problem, what better way to spend your winter than getting that under control so that when get my seasons mixed up here. So when spring rolls around or whenever, I just mixed up fall and so when spring rolls around, you're ready to go when spring season starts, so you can get back outside and go to the field more. Just because you can't get to the field or you can't get outside as much as you would be able to during the summer, the fall and the spring, it's not an excuse to not work on your game in some capacity. You can make different schedules for different things, but even in the winter, you can work on the ball. Like I said, in Ultimate Soccer Skills, you can work, most of these drills can be done in a basement. They can be done in a gym. Actually, if you have a gym, that's even better. You can do almost every drill in that. And this goes for many other routines that involve the ball. There is always, and I'm talking like good routines, like routines that give you a good workout, routines that really work on your ability with the ball. I mean, working with the ball in tight spaces is only going to be really beneficial to you when outdoor season kicks off again. I think, like in a video I did recently, you want to be playing all the time. Sign up for an indoor league if you can. Futsal maybe. I play in an indoor league. It's not like the most competitive league, but it's a league that allows me to keep playing. It allows me to get plenty of touches on the ball, practice my shooting. I really love it because, again, I get to practice so many things. I get so many touches on the ball. I'm still playing, and when you boil it down, I just love to play. So there are ways you can train in the winter. So don't use that as an excuse to not being able to train. I hear it all the time on the comments with players telling me, it's winter, really cold where I am. And it's really cold where I am too. There are definitely colder places in the world. It's below freezing here now. There's snow on the ground. I couldn't go to the field really and get a good session in, but I can do it in my basement. I can, go to the gym if I have a gym membership. I can, do a lot. I can do certain body weight workouts. I have some free weights I can use. So there really is, for me, no excuse for me personally as well to not train in some capacity, to not say, okay, I'm not going to be able to get to the field in a while. Let's create a schedule that allows me to train in the meantime, right? So, and you can do the same thing. So what you need to do, what I would do really is I would identify some of the things, because you guys are probably coming off of your season. You know, I don't know how long ago it ended. It's December now, so it may have been as long as a month, but you can take a look at your season and go, what did I struggle with? So maybe during the season you were getting knocked off the ball easily. Maybe you were not happy with your strength, or whatever. So you could use the off season, the winter season, to work on strengthening yourself. Look up some soccer workouts for strength. You know, I'm not asking you to bodybuild. You don't need to do that. And again, you don't need to be huge to play soccer, but you want to be sturdy. You want to be strong. You don't want to be pushed off the ball. You know, you want to, when you get into a 50-50 or a tussle with a defender, or if you're a defender with an attacker, you want to be the one who can come out. You don't want to be bullied off the ball. So maybe that's something you need to work on. Great time to do that. Maybe endurance, your fitness in general is something you need to work on. Well, if you work on that, you know, consistently over this winter period, you know, by the time spring rolls around, you're going to be in good shape and you're going to be ready. You're going to be ahead of the game. You know, and I can tell you, even in college, you know, at some of the better programs, I think they're much better with this. But I know, you know, in some programs, some players don't even train during the winter. You know, be the player that does. You know, you will have the advantage. You know, I mean, most good programs, will have some kind of winter program. I mean, even in my high school, we had certain training we would do on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the winter, but it wasn't mandatory. And if your team offers that, if you're in high school or you're in college and your team does offer sessions, make them mandatory for yourself. Don't be the player that goes, well, they're not mandatory. Look, you're trying to become the best player you possibly can, especially if you're in high school or college and you're trying to actually stand out on the team. Go to those sessions. Do your own as well, but don't use it as an opportunity. I can tell you, in high school, we used to do speed training and other things like that every Tuesday and Thursday, I think it was, or maybe it was Monday and Wednesday, but twice a week in the winter. Now, it wasn't mandatory, although it was highly encouraged, but not everyone would show up. And I remember, I think my freshman year, I didn't show up that much. Sophomore year, I showed up pretty much every time, and then junior year, I did as well. And I remember how much those sessions helped me. I didn't miss a single one. I think junior year, it was consistently doing this work all the time, where we'd be doing speed ladder stuff, you know, we'd be doing box jumps, we'd be doing jump rope, all this stuff. It was helping my fitness a lot, but it was also helping the quickness of my feet. And I remember that indoor season, how much that, I mean, like, I was a completely different player just from doing this additional work in the winter, where in the winter, I would still practice, but I didn't have this focused thing on something that I was pretty weak at. You know, I wasn't the fittest player, and, you know, I was a good player, but I didn't have incredibly quick feet at that point. And doing that, working on something that I didn't identify as a weakness, but did happen to be a weakness, really benefited me and helped me moving forward with my game. So that's kind of an example of using the winter to your advantage. Don't be a player who says, well, it's winter time now, it's the off season. You know, there is a time for a break. And maybe you won't work as hard in the winter, but do something. Have a goal. Have something you're working towards. You know, maybe you use the winter again, like you aren't happy with how good you are with the ball at your feet. You know, maybe you buy a program like Ultimate Soccer Skills or something else that helps you with that area, that helps you get really good at that area quickly. You know, and it doesn't have to be that. I mean, it can be a different thing. It can be just, it can be whatever program. But maybe you do that and you spend the winter really getting good at that area. I mean, you might as well use this time for that, right? And what I'm about to talk to you next is actually going to help with this. But really the thing to just take out of that is don't use the excuse that it's cold, it's winter, it's whatever. Use this time to work on a weakness. Maybe use this time to strengthen a strength. You know, use this time for maintenance. I don't know what it is, but do something. Don't be the player that does nothing. Don't be the player that does the bare minimum. Because it's going to hurt you. You know, the winter is going to be, you know, 2-3 months of this. And, you know, that's either 2 or 3 months you can stagnate or regress, or it's 2 or 3 months you can use to improve. And again, I guarantee you, you know, there's going to be plenty of players around you who aren't using the winter to improve themselves and aren't doing the speed training or the fitness or the strength training or the work with the ball at their feet, and it's going to hurt them. You know, if you take these months to do that, you're going to come out much, you know, a better player. You know, just so And if you also, if someone who hasn't been practicing consistently and you get that together in the winter, even better, you're going to be more prepared in the spring to continue using that momentum to propel you forward. So, just make sure you keep going with this. There's no excuse not to train in the winter in some capacity, okay? Now, the next thing I want to go over is kind of how you can start doing this. And I made a video on this where I issued almost like a 50-day challenge to you guys. And I went, basically, after doing something for 50 days every day, you start to get to a point where you don't need to force yourself. Ooh, just burped there. You don't need to force yourself to do it. You get to a point where it becomes almost like a part of you. You can use 30 days, 50 days, but I said 50 days because I just think that's a little more, gives you a better goal to reach, because 30 days is good, but the whole point of like a 30-day challenge is to get you in the swing of it, right? You don't just stop after 30 days. Any 30-day challenge I issue you is to get you in the kind of swing of consistency and momentum and all that. But like if you do a workout challenge for 30 days and then you just stop working out, or 30 days, and you just stop working out after 30 days, well, you're going to eventually reverse all the progress you've made, and the momentum you've built up is going to obviously stop as well. So, and the whole point of that was I wanted, and the reason I said I want you to do only 20 minutes of a specific area every single day, in addition to your regular training. So just pick an area you're weak at, or an area you really want to get a hold of, and I want you to do 10 to 20 minutes of it every single day. That was the whole video. And the reason I said that, and why I said don't do any more, because I know a lot of players will be like, I'm going to do an hour of this. The problem with that is, one, I said you're doing this in addition to your regular routine. But the bigger problem with that is I know how I used to think, and I still think like this sometimes when I don't catch myself. And I know how a lot of players who get, motivated, rah-rah type of stuff, but then once that motivation is gone, they haven't developed the discipline in order to keep going with an hour a day or 2 hours of a certain thing. And that, you just have to kind of respect the process a little bit here and understand, if you want to get to that point where you can do it for an hour, 2, 3, whatever amount, you get to a day, you have to start small. You have to focus on the small wins every single day. And again, I continually repeat this, and this is not just me repeating this. I learned this from people like Simon Sinek and other like really high level people, is consistency is more important than intensity at first. Obviously blending them together is ideal, but you need to build the foundation first, and you build the foundation by being consistent first. So even if that's just doing it for 10 minutes every single day, right? 10 minutes every single day will eventually add up, and then you can do 20 minutes every day, then 30, then 40, and whatever it gets to, right? But I find a lot of players will get motivated and do something for like an hour every single day, and they might do it for a few days, maybe even a week, maybe even longer. But eventually they get to a point where they're burned out, where they're just not used to doing it yet. They haven't built up to that point. They haven't had incremental integrity, which just means respecting the kind of incremental steps you need to take in order to get to that bigger step. But you need to respect that process. So small wins, focus on small daily wins. And with your winter training, focus on this as well. So if you're trying to work on a weakness, maybe your fitness, focus on just, doing maybe interval training for 10 to 20 minutes every day. Or maybe not every single day, but getting it to a point where, you're working on that area a little bit each day, and then you can move it up a little more. Now, if you're already in a place where you're a pretty disciplined guy or girl, or you're just a pretty disciplined person, and you're already at that point where you can train longer, obviously don't go back down to 10 to 20 minutes. You've already built yourself up to that point. I'm not saying regress here. I'm not saying go backwards. But I am saying for you guys, especially if this rings true for you, if you're someone who would train, but stop completely. And I've had this problem before. I've had this problem many times where I've tried different new things and haven't followed through because I try to bite off more than I can chew. I've tried to do so much at once that I end up doing nothing eventually. I end up like doing it for a little bit, but then falling off. But whenever I've built it up slowly and I've respected that, look, obviously I want everything at once. We have this urge or this inclination towards instant gratification. You want everything at once. You want everything instantly, right? We as humans, we gravitate towards instant gratification. That's why, it's hard to resist things like junk food unless you've disciplined yourself. It's easy to pick up workouts that are very easy to complete and don't challenge you that much. It's easy to watch Netflix for hours upon hours. Why? Because it's instant gratification. You're getting some kind of gratification out of it, and it takes a little work on your part, and it's instant. You can do it right away. I can go on YouTube right now and just watch videos for an hour instead of working on my channel, or working out, or meditating, or whatever, or doing something that's going to help me, because it's instant gratification. But you need to get out of that mindset, because it's just going to hold you back. You need to really start to enjoy the small wins in the moment. So start to enjoy the workouts and everything. You'll find they become much more satisfying. Like I'm much more satisfied on a day when I work out versus a day when I don't. It's like I'm a completely different person. On days when I work out, if I have a rest day, that's a whole different thing. But that I consider rest days as a part of your workout routine. They're necessary. So you're not working out. That's a part of it. You need to let your body rest for the appropriate amount of time. But I just feel better when I work out. For many reasons. One, that's just good for you, but also because I know that I'm playing the long-term game here. I know that if I consistently do this, that who I am a month, 2 months, 3 months, however long from now is going to be different. So focus on your small daily wins with your training. So again, this winter, if you're working on the weakness, maybe again it's strength, you have to understand you're not going to be able to lift or do as much as the guy who's been in the gym for a long time. You're not going to be able to do as much as the person who's trained his body to a certain point. And what you want to recognize, and this is another important point, moving on a tangent here, is I'm sure you've heard this one before, but you're only competing with yourself. And again, this is one I have to keep recognizing, because I'll see someone who's like ripped or something, or someone who's so much stronger than I am, or faster, and I go, I want that, right? And I'm like, so I'll get all motivated and have like an insane workout session, but I'll be so sore the next day because my body couldn't handle that, and it prevents me from being consistent, because I can't physically work out the next day, maybe even 2 days from there, because my body couldn't take it. You have to get into the routine of just challenging yourself. Don't worry about other people. You're at a certain place right now, and they're at a certain place facing their own challenges. It's a huge ego trip to think, I've got to be as good as this guy. No, you just need to focus on your own progression, on your own small daily wins. Stop looking at people's gains on Instagram, unless it's motivational for you. I mean, that's one thing. If you can get into a point of appreciation, which is, I try and do this. Instead, I look at someone, it's a complete mind shift from jealousy to appreciation, where you look at someone doing well and you go, that's awesome. Good for that person. That's what I strive to do. And you get motivated by that guy. But if you look at that guy or that person who's doing well, who's fit, or who has had incremental, and understand these people who are at that point had incremental integrity. There's no way they get to that point unless they have incremental integrity. There's no one who gets to the professional level usually unless they have it as well. No one who gets a really nice, good, strong body without it either. No one who gets fit without it. But when you're looking at these people, if you are going to keep looking at these cases, allow it to motivate you by appreciating them, by having appreciation for how hard they've worked, and having appreciation for the fact that if you do this as well, you can get to that point. But if it becomes like jealousy, or it becomes something like you feel bad about yourself because you're not at that point, that's not serving you. So don't focus on it. But again, like if you're someone who can look at that and get motivated, then surround yourself with it. Again, everyone's going to be different. Everyone gets, motivated and has drive coming from different places. So knowing yourself in that kind of situation is always going to help. So, small daily wins, guys. That's it's gonna be it. You work out one day, then the next day, and then the next day you have your rest days in there. You have the workouts you're gonna do. If they're too difficult, you pull back a little bit and you just say, okay, let's try this, and you keep experimenting until you find something that works, an intensity that works for you. Again, you want the happy medium between challenging yourself but not making it so difficult that, again, your body can't handle it or you can't do it. And that's actually how you get into flow. If you've ever noticed, if you've done drills that you're really good at and you know what to do, and it's so easy for you that you kind of go through the motions and training kind of is boring. You ever notice that? But if you also notice on those training days where you're making a few mistakes, but you're kind of doing some new things, you're trying to do things quicker, and it's just like it's challenging, but you're able to do it. You're getting it. Have you noticed how you're more energized in those moments and you seem more in the zone? There's a reason for that. That's called flow. Flow happens when you have that happy medium between challenging yourself but also not biting off more than you can chew. And that's exactly where you want to be, between where it is challenging, where you're at the edge of your ability, but you haven't gone over it to the point where you're making mistake after mistake after mistake and you can't do it. It's like when you play, if you ever were younger and you played against a player who was head and shoulders above you, it was disheartening and was not, it might have been motivating, but it was disheartening and you didn't learn anything from it. But the same is true when you're a player and you're playing someone who's nowhere near as good as you. It may be fun, you get some kind of like superiority complex out of it, you get some satisfaction maybe, but you don't become any better. So again, happy medium. That's why if you play with better players, again, if they're just head and shoulders above you, like if you take a player playing in like League 2 of the English tier and put them in a practice with Premier League players, and I mean like a legit League 2 player, not like a Dele Alli who's an upcoming kid or something who's really good. I mean like a player who's been in League 2 forever and is there for a reason because their ability doesn't exceed League 2, and you put them in like a Premier League team in practice, they're not going to get much out of it. They might see what it's like to be at that level, but that might be too much, It's going to be too frustrating. It's going to be something where the gulf in level is too much. So you want a happy balance between challenge and not biting off too much, okay? So, but focus on those small daily wins. And if you take anything from this video, because it's all been like surrounding this idea of training in winter, is this winter, for the remaining time of winter, get your schedule going, identify a weakness. That's why I would have you write down, identify a weakness that you have. And you can do a strength as well. But like, again, like if you're not fit, for example, I would recommend making that one of your main things you concentrate on. If you're not happy with your strength, make that one of them. I would also recommend you do some ball skill work as well. So if you're not happy with your skills or your ability with the ball at your feet, work on that. But as you're working on this, to have that incremental integrity, those small wins. Remember, if you're doing something every single day to the best of your ability, you are winning, you are moving forward, you are progressing. It's not about progressing all in one leap. It's about progressing a little bit each day. And there'll be days where maybe it doesn't go so well. Maybe you move backwards a little bit, and that's fine. That's when you need that persistence as well. But the good thing about small daily wins is it's much easier when you break it down to small daily wins than thinking of like, I've got to do all of this at once. I've got to become this amazing player at once. I need to be, I need to get a year's worth of results in a month. It just doesn't, you can't do it that way. Focus on those small daily wins. And a good actually little practice you can do that I've been doing for a while is at the end of every day, if you journal, even if you don't journal, you can just write this down in a notebook you have. Write down at least 5 daily wins from the day. So like whenever before you go to bed, you're journaling. At the end of your journal entry, put small daily wins, and then you can just go, I completed my training routine. And then small daily wins for other things. Maybe like I don't know. For me, like it'll be something with self-improvement. So maybe I meditated. I'll be like, I meditated today. I created a video, whatever it is. But for your training, make sure you're acknowledging those small daily wins and feeling good about them. And that's going to reinforce the behavior, and it's going to encourage you to keep doing it. Okay, so that's about it, guys. So just to recap, make sure you're training in the winter. No excuses, you can do it. Yes, you're not going to be able to get to the field as much. Although if there's a warm day, use that day to get to the field. But again, the great thing about football is you don't need much. You got a ball and some space and you're good to go. And if you're working on other areas like strength, fitness, speed, whatever, you can do those as well. So pick a weakness, work on that thing. Next is focus on those small daily wins. So as you're going through your training, don't focus on like, I have to do 2 hours of training this day. I have to do 4 hours this day. Focus on building up, build the foundation. Because again, if you start trying to do 2 hours every single day and you haven't built up to that point, you're basically trying to build the 3rd floor before you've even built the foundation of the house, right? So it's going to come collapsing down. That's why if you try and bite off more than you can chew, you usually give up after a certain point, not because you're a quitter or anything, but because you try to take on more than you could handle currently. And it doesn't mean anything bad about you that you couldn't handle that yet. That doesn't mean anything bad. It just means you haven't gotten to that point yet. That doesn't mean in the future you won't be at that point, but you won't be at that point in the future unless you build up to that point, okay? And of course, this is a very nuanced thing as well. Like there are, sometimes maybe you're not challenging yourself enough and you could go a little further. And I am saying you should push yourself. But again, there's a difference between pushing yourself and then instant gratification and wanting it all way too quickly and, trying to practice 3 hours a day when you haven't even gotten to the point where you can do it 30 minutes a day, if that makes sense. Build up. Build your foundation. Just remember that. Build your foundation. You know, once you've built that foundation, everything else becomes easier, or at least stronger. You know, you're coming from a place where you have a solid foundation. Okay? So that's it. Small daily wins, training in the winter. Again, check out Ultimate Soccer Skills if you really want to get control of that area of your game. So that means your skill moves, your ability with the ball at your feet, which again is one of the most important things in football. Your confidence on the ball, again, another really important one. We have mental training in there. We're going to have like a bunch of other stuff. We're going to have like a longer player analysis stuff in there. There's a bunch of stuff that's going to happen in there, and a bunch of stuff already in there. There's a bunch of 30-day challenges and things like that. So if you're interested in that, get in there before the price goes up. I hope to see you in there. You can also get the shirt as well, linked down below. Everything will be linked below for you guys. But other than that, guys, you know, stick to your training. You know, focus on those small daily wins. Be persistent. You know, there'll be days where it doesn't go so well, but it's fine. You know, just focus on the small daily wins the next day and all that. Let's do a hashtag. We'll do hashtag foundation. Don't forget about that. Build the foundation. Don't try and build the second or third floor or the roof before you've even built the bottom, before you've built the foundation, because what happens, it comes crumbling down. You know, so the stronger your foundation, the better. All right. So hashtag foundation. Again, if you put the hashtag in there, it allows me to know, or lets me know that you've listened all the way to the end. If you put the hashtag down there and you have a question or a comment, I'm much more likely to answer you because I want to make sure I'm answering the people who are actually listening to this all the way and are actually investing their time in this, and not the people who come here for like a minute, leave a question, and then leave. So even if you don't have a question or a comment, just put hashtag foundation down there to let me know that you've listened. I really do appreciate that. And you know, give yourself a pat on the back for taking the time out of your day. I know this is like, you know, the investment of your time is one of the most important things you can invest, even more important than your money. I think investing those two things are the main two things that you should look to invest wisely. And I really appreciate that you're here listening to this. So after listening to this, take some action though. Get a training routine going, you know, get a program, you know, start working on building that foundation. Remember to put hashtag foundation in the comments with your question, comment, or just to let me know you've listened. And thanks once again, guys. I will definitely try and I'll definitely try. I'll make sure I have a podcast out next week as well. Thanks again, and we'll talk soon.